Hi, this is Jackie from ESLspeaking.org. So today I'm going to talk about 3 things, which is a very simple ESL writing activity. So I love activities that require no preparation and no materials. They are some ESL teaching gold because if you have those last minute classes, an English teaching emergency, whatever happens, it's good to have a few of these kind of in your back pocket just to pull out. So 3 things, you put students into pairs and they each have to choose 3 random nouns, a person, a place, or a thing. It can be related to a theme such as like Christmas or going to school or school things or just whatever you want. So they write down those 3 nouns on a piece of paper and then they trade the paper with a partner. Their partner has to write a story based on these 3 random words, so it can often be quite interesting and fun, depending on the words that their partner has chosen. The story can be silly, serious, not serious. I kind of leave it up to the students for whatever they want. Then in the end, they trade back papers with their partner, and they can each read the story that that other person has created for them. If you have a very small class, you can get students even to share their story with the class. So my version for very low-level students is that I get them to shout out the 3 words to me. I write them on the board, and then I get students to kind of help me make the story, but I do the writing on the whiteboard. All right, if you like this activity idea, please check out my book, ESL Writing Games and Activities. Hi, this is Jackie. So today I'm going to talk about a very simple writing activity, dictation. I know dictation kind of has this negative connotation to it. It is a bit old school, which I understand. It kind of comes out of like the grammar translation method of teaching English from, I don't even know how long ago, hundreds of years ago, 1,000 years ago, something like that. However, I do think it does have value. So some of the reasons that I like to throw a bit of dictation into my classes is that it really helps students practice things like spelling, punctuation, including capital letters, question forms, that kind of thing, contractions, grammar, phrasal verbs, etc. So if you have a purely communicative class and students are just talking to each other, they may not even know things like capital letters or punctuation in English. Of course, it's important. If they're writing a business email, students have to know this kind of stuff. So that's why I like to focus on these things once in a while, and dictation is a great way to do that. So the way it works is that students get out a notebook or a piece of paper, and then you can read out, for beginners, you can read out a single word, orange. And they spell orange in their notebooks. That's the very, very beginner. Higher level students, I would say a sentence. Today is Monday. And they have to write today is Monday in their notebooks, including a capital letter, a period, all the correct punctuation in that. And then the highest level is to say something like a question form. For example, what day is it today? Students write, what day is it today? Then at the end of the activity, they have to answer the question. Today is Tuesday. Or you could say the answer form. Today is Tuesday. They write down today is Tuesday. And then at the end of the activity, they have to come up with a question form. What day is it today? All right, so that is my simple dictation activity. Hey, this is Jackie from ESLactivity.org. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite activities, Dictogloss. So Dictogloss is such a good listening activity, and I generally will use it kind of for higher level students as opposed to lower level ones. So the way it works is that you can find or write a passage for whatever grammar or vocabulary point that you want to cover. You can often look in ESL textbooks that will have like a story or something, or I'll write my own if it's for like a Christmas activity or Valentine's Day or something like that. So I put students into pairs and they each need a pen and a piece of paper, and then I read out the story at a faster than normal pace for the level of students. And the students will get a little bit stressed out. They'll say like, what? Like slow down, it's too fast. But that's actually the point. So students have to take notes about what they hear and try to get the key words. And then in pairs, they talk together to attempt to kind of recreate the skeleton of the story that they've heard. And then I'll read out the story one more time, and students go with their partners and do the same thing. And then in the end, students can compare what they have with the original version. So students can do this just orally by speaking to each other, or they can try to write out the story to make it very similar to what you read. So either way, it depends on the level of students and what you're going to focus on in that class. All right, so that's one simple activity that you can try out with your students today, Dictogloss. So if you want more ideas for how to review things in your ESL classes, be sure to check out my book on Amazon, 39 ESL Review Activities for Teenagers and Adults, and I also have a version for kids. I'm going to talk about a very simple warm-up that you can use for writing classes. So I taught academic writing in Korean universities for many, many years, and this is what I did at the beginning of every single writing class that I did. It's called the 5-minute writing time. Students often get kind of laser focused or obsessed on accuracy, writing accuracy. So they want their grammar and their vocabulary choices to be perfect. However, that often comes at the expense of writing very slowly. So I did this quick activity to help them just write faster. So they would each have a notebook, and then I would have a topic of the day. So for example, like maybe a favorite memory from childhood, or talk about your family, talk about a movie that you watched recently, or what's your favorite TV show, or tell me about what you do on the weekend, something like that. So just kind of a general topic that everyone would have something to say about that. And then I would tell students to put away their phone and put away their dictionaries and just write. So I said that the goal was to keep your pen moving at all times. So they could start talking maybe about their hobby, and I like to play soccer. I usually play on weekends with my friends. I really like it because blah, blah, blah. And then if they ran out of things to say, I told students just to write, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And then eventually something will come to them and they will keep writing. So I said, if I look up, because I actually was writing at the same time, I would usually do the same topic as them. But I said, if I look up, I don't want to see anyone's pen not moving. I said, that is the goal of this activity. So they would do that in the notebook. And then at the end of the time, I would get students to count up how many words they had. So in the first class, I got them to count the exact number of words that they did. So maybe they did, say, 300 words, and they divide it by the number of lines. So they can kind of figure out their rough word count per line. So the first time it took quite a while, and then they would mark it in a chart. But all the other classes, they would just count up how many lines and kind of do like a rough guesstimate of how many words. So I said in their chart that they would map each day, I wanted to see it go up, up, up. So maybe they started out 300 words, they got, after a month it was 320, by the end of the semester maybe it was 400, something like that. So the goal was to increase their writing speed. So I didn't assign marks for this. Well, I did a little bit, so I would give them like five points or 5% of their final grade, but I would just quickly peruse their book, and I didn't actually read everything. I would just check their chart and just make sure that they were actually doing it in class instead of just sitting there on their cell phone or something like that. So yeah, it was 5 easy points for the students, and I think they really enjoyed it, just working on writing fluency. So if you like this ESL warm-up, please be sure to check out my book, 39 ESL warm-ups. There are lots more of ideas for writing classes, speaking classes, conversation classes, and all kinds of ESL classes. Hi everybody, this is Jackie from ESLspeaking.org. So today I'm going to talk about a very simple writing activity that your students can do called postcards. So the most difficult thing about this activity is getting your hands on a bunch of postcards. The good news is that it's often easy to find. If you live in kind of a tourist area, there'll often be some like on sale. You can get a pack. If you have like a bit of money in your school budget, you can sometimes get a pack of 20 for like $5, something like that. So pick up a bunch of postcards and then distribute one to each student. Or if you don't want to spend that much money on postcards, you could put students into groups of 2 or 3 or 4. The students can look at the picture on the front of the card, and then they have to write to a family member or friend about their trip. So you could talk kind of about like what things people typically write on postcards, maybe what they're eating, how the weather is, how the plane ride was, things that they've seen, activities they've done, that kind of thing. So students just can make up whatever they would like to write on the postcard. It doesn't have to be true, of course, because they probably have never been to that place. But yeah, they can just think about and write whatever they want to whoever they want. And then in the end, students can trade postcards with another group, and that other group or person can read what the other students have done. And postcards are quite colorful and fun, so posting them around the class, for a little while works as well too. Yeah, so check out this super simple activity and students really seem to enjoy it. One of the most important but overlooked skills is proofreading and editing. To be honest, if you are a business person or you're a teacher, you have any kind of job, you probably have to write things. And if you can't proofread and edit your own work, nobody will really take you seriously. If you write a business email that's full of mistakes, who's going to take you seriously? Or if you're a teacher and you're writing a bunch of report cards and there's a bunch of mistakes in them, the parents are going to wonder who is actually teaching my kids. That's why I love to teach my ESL or EFL students how to proofread and edit. So I know it's a little bit old school, it's a little bit boring, however, it is a very important skill. So the best way to do it is to have a little checklist. And this will of course depend on the level of the students, but some very basic things to add on there are punctuation, including like periods, commas, question marks, capital letters, subject-verb agreement, like they are, he is, things like that. Of course, spelling, overused words like great, awesome, good. There's so many better adjectives and descriptive words that you can use to replace that. So those are the most basic ones, and then it can get into way more complicated things as well, depending on the level. Okay, so that's it. Don't overlook proofreading and editing with your students, even if it's a little bit boring. Push through and do it with them because it actually is a very important skill. If you need some more ideas for teaching English, please be sure to check out my book, 39 No Prep, Low Prep ESL Grammar Activities. Round Robin Story is a very simple ESL writing activity. It's fun because it involves groups. So generally, writing is kind of a solo activity. That's why I like to try to make some kind of group or team writing activities just to kind of spice things up a little bit in my English classes. So Round Robin Story, each student has a piece of paper and a pen, and they start the story off with something. So it could be like a theme, or it could just be general, like leave it open, and they write one sentence. So there was a guy named Bob. And then everyone passes their paper one to the left or to the right or in the circle or just however your classroom is set up. And then the next student adds a sentence. There was a guy named Bob. Bob went to the store yesterday. And then the students pass the paper along. And when this time is almost up, it depends how many sentences you want to add, depends on the level of the students and how much time you have for this activity. I'll generally say, okay, there's 2 more sentences left. Wrap up the story. So then they have to kind of like read the story and a little bit figure out how to end it. When all the stories are done and the time is up, I'll collect the stories and then I'll quickly read them out. Or you could have students just read the stories themselves. You could put them on the wall, something like that. Okay, so that is a very simple group writing activity you can try out in your ESL or EFL classes. Hey everybody, this is Jackie from ESLspeaking.org. So I love 4 Skills ESL activities. 4 Skills activities combine reading, writing, listening, and speaking into a single activity. One of my favorites is running dictation. You can use it for just about any vocabulary set or grammar point. The students love it, and of course it's multi-skilled. All right, so I'll explain how it works with running dictation. So first of all, you need to find something, like a conversation between 2 people, maybe a poem, a short story that has some logical steps, maybe someone is cooking something. As long as you can divide it up into like the sentence level, sentence by sentence by sentence, and then it also should have a logical order in order for students to be able to do part 2. So let's do a conversation between 2 people. So maybe Bob and Tony, cut out Bob's line, cut out Tony's line, Bob, Tony, etc. And the best is maybe there's like say 7 or 8 little strips of paper. Bob speaks 5 times or 4 times and Tony speaks, I don't know, like 4 times or 5 times, something like that. Paste them around the room on the wall. So Bob's thing here and then Tony and Bob and Tony. Space them out around your classroom. Then put students into pairs. So one person is the writer, the other person is the dictator. So the writer person sits at their desk with a pencil and a paper, and the dictator has to stand up. They go over to any paper. They're not in the precise order. I just mix them up randomly. So they go over to a paper. They read it to themselves silently. They try to memorize what's on that paper, and then they come back to their partner, the writer. They say it to their partner, and their partner has to write it down. If they can't get that whole sentence or that whole utterance in one go, they can go back and read that one again. It's no problem. And they just go around the classroom until they have, say, like the 8 statements on their paper. Once they do, the 2 people can sit down together and they can go through that and then put them into the correct order. So what's the first thing Bob said, and then Tony said this, and then Bob said that. And then once they're done, the students can put up their hand and I will quickly check. So I usually give a limit of how many errors they can have in their dictation, say like 3 errors or maybe even 1 for like very advanced level students, and then they have to get it into the correct order. If they've met both of those requirements, they're the winner. That's it. And I usually will go until a few more groups finish just to give them a chance to do that. And then in the end, I'll maybe have like the winning team read out their conversation just for people that didn't quite finish it. Yeah, so that's it. So that's one of my favorite 4 skills ESL activities. Try it out for yourself. And I have a ton of tips. There are some things that can go wrong in this activity. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. So definitely check out my blog post for details on how to avoid the worst case scenario. So one of my favorite review activities that's very simple and requires nothing in the way of preparation for materials that I like to use for my English learners is that sentence correct? It's the ultimate time filler, review activity, homework thing, something that you can put on your exam. So basically you just write up a bunch of sentences. Some of them will be correct, some of them won't be correct. In pairs, students have to look at the sentence and they decide if it's correct, they do nothing. They just put a check mark. If it's incorrect, they put an X and then they have to make the required changes. That's it. Super simple. If you like this activity, please be sure to check out my book, 39 No Prep, Low Prep ESL Grammar Activities. Hey everybody, this is Jackie from ESLspeaking.org. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite ESL warm-up activities. It's called word association. It's basically a mind map of words or brainstorming words, but kind of in an organized fashion. So I would use this activity if I'm teaching students something I think they already know a lot about. For example, sports, weather, hobbies. All those things are very common in ESL textbooks. So unless I'm teaching like absolute basic beginners, students probably already know a lot of sports or know a lot of weather vocabulary words. So I like to use this activity to help them kind of elicit their prior knowledge so that any new things they learn will be easier for them to remember. So for example, if we're doing weather, I would write weather on the board and then draw a circle around it. And then I would get students, I would say, shout out words that you know about weather. And they would say like snowy, snow, hail. And then that would kind of be maybe like winter things. So I'd have a little category of winter weather. And then maybe they would say hot, humid, sunny, and that would be kind of summer weather. So I'd have another little hub of sunny. Just keep going until the students have kind of come up with all the words they know. And then jump into your lesson. It's a nice way to introduce any sort of ESL lesson on most topics. Yeah, and then students can just think, oh, I already know a ton of words about weather. So they feel like less stressed out and overwhelmed for any new words that they might be adding to that in your lesson. Hi, this is Jackie from ESLspeaking.org. So today I'm going to talk about a very simple game called Word Challenge. It's basically an ESL spelling game. I love activities that require nothing in the way of preparation and then also nothing in the way of materials. These are some of the best activities to have if you kind of have this emergency class that's thrown at you, or you have a few extra minutes to kill and you finished all the things that you had on your lesson plan. This is kind of a nice one to do. So the way it works is that you can have a word list of vocabulary words that you've recently taught your students, or for the no prep version, just kind of come up with them on the fly. It depends how good you are at that. I personally prefer to have a list. Coming up with things on the fly is possible, but I get kind of stressed out about it. So I definitely prefer to have a list. And then put students into teams. So the number of teams will depend on how much whiteboard space you have. So if you have quite a big whiteboard, you might want to have like 3 or 4 different teams because everyone needs to line up in a section. So if you have, say, 4 teams of 4, you can draw lines, 3 lines down the board, and each team gets 1 section of the whiteboard. And then the first person at the board, 1 person from each team, will take a marker and line up, and then their 3 teammates will be behind them. And then the teacher says a word, and the first student to spell that word correctly gets 1 point for their team. I usually make a rule that the people behind them are not allowed to talk to them. If the people behind them can give hints, it gets really crazy really, really quickly. Everyone is yelling and screaming and just like it's kind of a lot. So it's quite exciting to do it that way, but I personally prefer just having quiet, and then the students at the board can race and do it. When you're done that, the winner gets a point, and then the next person in line goes, and that first person goes to the back of the line. All right, if you like this activity, please be sure to check out my book, ESL Writing, Games, and Activities. Also hit like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody.